Sheldon, you mentioned the other day that when Austin's been out, John has, it seems like, been terrific in stepping up. Why do you think he's been able to kind of move into that role seamlessly?
I think he's a good player. He's a world-class player. He's played that position lots. I think it was all of that. He's a leader on our team. Recognizes it's a big moment. It's a big opportunity. So I think all those things. But starts and probably really just ends with the fact he's a very good player in his own right.
Sheldon, I think I remember another year where the top 8 teams have really separated themselves from the non-playoff teams. What do you think that says about the competition amongst the top 8 this year?
I mean, it seems like, every year I think the teams that make the playoffs obviously are all very good teams. It seems like this year, as you're saying, there's, in the East especially, there's a clear divide between the teams when you look at the standings. I think things have started to level off a little bit here, certainly with with us and what we've been going through here. But there's been, teams like the one we're playing tonight that have, maintained, 700 or above hockey all season long, and that is, it's not an easy thing to do. I don't know when the last time there's been, more than one team that's been at 700 or above. I think, at least my time in the league, I don't know if that's been the case a whole lot. With this many teams there. So there's been a divide there. There's some very strong teams, but I think also what we've seen of late is teams now that are not in the playoffs or are not in that mix are playing well and are beating a lot of teams ahead of them, ourselves being one of them. So I think you're just, you're seeing that there are very strong teams clearly in the league, but the league is still very competitive and you have to be ready every night.
Last time Carolina was here, Rod Brindamore said he feels like the two teams are somewhat similar. What sort of kind of similarities do you see between you guys and the Hurricane?
Well, I think there's some similarities in how the two teams want to play. I think that our team with some of the skill set that we have on our team, we're doing different things with the puck at times. They're a little more straightforward, and the things are going ahead really quickly, and then it gets the pucks in the hands of their forwards, and then they're really skilled guys, really make plays and things come together for them there. But certainly in terms of the structure of how each team plays, and when each team is at their best, I think there are definitely similarities there. I think in terms of puck pressure and structure and how this team Carolina plays, they're the class of the league in a lot of regards. That shows up when you watch the game. That shows up when you look at it statistically. It shows up when you look at the standings. So, you know what you're in for when you're playing against a Carolina team. And I think when we're at our best, we do that well. We haven't done it to the consistency that we'd like to get into that class of where Carolina's sitting here now, and we're not far away from that. And tonight's an opportunity for us to get there.
So how's Jack going on the week in his recovery?
I think he's doing well. I think things are progressing. I haven't got a lot of reports on him, but I've just seen him around the facility and coming in for treatment and stuff like that. I'm not certain exactly where it's at in terms of him getting back on the ice and getting moving that way, but I haven't heard anything that hasn't gone anything other than progress.
Sheldon, the game in October, you were very in Carolina. You were very candid after the game. You look at how your team's responded since then. It's pretty impressive. And that was adversity. What when you look at that moment and since then, what makes you most proud of your group?
Well, I think, as you say, when we played that game in Carolina, I did feel like we did a lot of really good things. We lost the game, which we deserved to lose, because we were outplayed as the game really wore on. Carolina was able to do it for a lot longer than we were. But we saw elements in that game. I guess going back to Mark's question earlier, is just that we feel like there's things that we do and we do well that looks a lot with how Carolina plays, and that's how a lot of the game was looking. And there wasn't a lot happening there. We gave up some chances in that first period, but we came out of it with a 1-0 lead and just couldn't stay with it long enough. But it was encouraging both on the side that we saw it and how we played, but also, Carolina gave us a really good example of what it takes in terms of staying with it and being consistent all through 3 periods. And I just thought that we would be able to really take that and build from it. And we've been able to do that. I think here of late, we've slipped a little bit in terms of that consistency. And there's been, a lot going on here. Obviously, we're trying to keep the puck out of our net more. And there's been a lot of focus on the goaltending. But even with our defending, we're trying to get all that connected again. But, we've gone from a team that really struggled out of the gate to start the season, and we saw us turn the corner in Carolina. At the time, it didn't feel like it. Maybe if you're on the outside, but for myself as a coach, I recognized really, really good signs in that moment that saw that we would, we're too good a team to not have it come together. So. I do feel proud about that, with how the guys have found their way and have put us in that top tier of teams that are going to compete for playoff positions. And down this last 20 games here now, we're trying to get ourselves back to certainly sort of how we came out of that game in Carolina and through to November.
Understanding it's not your main focus, but how frequently would you and Kyle discuss roster needs, especially with the trade deadline so close?
Kyle and I talk pretty much all day, every day. We're communicating on different things, but I've got a lot on my plate here in terms of preparing the team, so that is my focus and continues to be. Kyle and management and the scouting staff have been meeting extensively. And they've been spending a lot of time on that, and we check in every now and again, but really my focus remains here.
Does when divisional rivals make ads, though, does it get your attention?
I think it's no surprise that that was going to be the case. So I was expecting it, whether it's the players that they've acquired or somebody else. That you knew there was going to be some ads, there was going to be some activity. So I haven't been too focused on it.
As fast as this game is, Labushkin seems to manage to consistently put up these hit totals. What do you appreciate about the way he's been able to influence the game with his physicality? Yeah,
he's a competitor. He knows that's. I guess to take it back, he certainly is a competitor, but he really does know who he is. And he knows, he says to me often when I, come with him with some positive feedback and things I liked about his game, his response often is, that's my job. And so he knows that, and he goes out to use that skill set and that he has and the competitiveness that he has. He uses that. He also has a willingness to really work at his game and try to improve in other areas, and we've tried to work with him with that, play with the puck and different things that are available, different plays that are available, and how we can do that, because we do think there's a great opportunity for growth there for him, and we've seen some of that already. That's part of why we took a little more patient approach before we put him up with Morgan, but he makes stops defensively, whether that's through the neutral zone or that's in our own zone. He gets plays stopped that way. Just by having a good stick and getting things stopped that way, or if he has a good gap, which he often does, or we have numbers and numerical advantages coming back to our end, he's going to hold the line, he's going to be physical, and he's going to put his body on the line and get in the way. Those are really important things to have, and he's really brought that to us, and I think it's rubbing off on some other guys too.
Sheldon, whether it be when you were playing or when you began coaching, who were the coaches you looked up to the most?
Well, I've said often I had the good fortune of being a part of the process that was taking place in Tampa Bay at a time when I came in 2000, and the team got to the point that they were too good for me to be around when they won the Cup in 2004, but I was part of that process of 2000, 2003 as a young guy trying to find his way, and Torts came in, took over that team and started to really change the culture. And certainly as I began coaching, that was an experience that I looked upon as not being there when they won the cup, but being a part of the process of the culture changing and the young players growing and seeing how all of that came together. That was really the kind of the model and foundation for me as I began coaching. But then from there, I think what I've grown, I mean, I have great respect for anyone who's ever coached in the NHL, but and you learned a ton from that, and watching games and trying to get practices and drills and how they run things and listen to coaches talking to media. But I also take a ton from coaches outside of hockey. I think there's a tremendous value there. I was fortunate to spend time with Pete Carroll, the Seattle Seahawks, in their training camp a few years ago, and learned an incredible amount. And I admired him from afar, Steve Kerr, and the job that he's done, and Sean McVay this year when he win the Super Bowl, and the process he's come through as a young coach. Those are the kind of guys that I really look to a lot. But I'm open to learning from anyone and everyone from any sport or industry.
How'd you get hooked up with Pete Carroll?
Just connections through sports, and Kyle had some connections there at Seattle. I was with the Marlies at the time, but I've for as long as I've known Kyle, back to the Sioux days, I've told him I've had a great curiosity about how football organizations run and how the coaches run and how they operate with that many players and that many coaches. I was there. I counted them up. Seahawks had 28 coaches in the meetings when I was there. So it's a lot to manage, and I've always been curious how that works. It's a fascinating process.
Have you adapted anything from football into what you saw in football?
Music in our practices is probably one of the biggest things. That's a real commonplace in the NFL, and talking to Pete a little bit about that, but also just experiencing it. So that'd be a big one. But there's other things, just how we run our meetings and stuff like that. I wasn't there long, but I was there enough for it to make an impact for sure. Yeah.
Has anything stood out to you about Brindamore? You have Dean obviously in your staff now, and having coached against him a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously having Dean on our staff has given us great insight, to how things are run in Carolina, and they've obviously established a great culture there, and just the simplicity with what they play, but the high standards that they maintain, and everybody's on board with that. And everybody knows what the expectations are, and they go out and they execute at a high level, do it consistently. And Rod obviously leads the way in that regard, much like he did as a player. So, yeah, we look at Carolina a lot. We obviously preparing to play them, but also because of Dean's connection and some of the things that he's brought to us, not just on the penalty kill, but even strength. There's a lot of connection there.